What is your undiagnosed strange physical problem that doctors can't find an answer for? Sleep issues. I have done 3 sleep study tests and 2 tests for narcolepsy and they can't figure anything out. I am always tired no matter how much I sleep, and when I have done the overnight tests I always joke with the techs that I am gonna melt their machines once I hit REM sleep. When I wake up they say you weren't lying. I can tell you dream most of the night. Edit. Thanks for the advice in here. Sounds like I need to look into some things. This. I sleep so hard and I'm always tired. Dreams every night and all night usually. I have 2 lumps on the bottom of my foot. They have been surgically removed twice and still came back. Biopsies were clean. One podiatrist said they were probably impacted sweat glands. But 2 others said probably not. They had reasons I don't recall. Imagine 2 pea-sized rocks permanently embedded on the bottom of your foot. It hurts to walk most of the time. Look up hyperkeratosis punctata. Might be your issue. I stumbled across a show recently on Netflix, I think. The name of it eludes me right now. Anyway. It's about people with unexplained illness and how this doctor started a network to get the patient info out to the rest of the world. Including regular people and medical professionals. It just takes that one person who recognizes the symptoms for a diagnosis to finally happen. Your story seems like a good fit for this program in my opinion. You might look into it. I'll see if I can find it. Edit. Okay. The show is called Diagnosis with Dr. Lisa Sanders. I had erectile dysfunction for about 3 years in my 20s. My sex drive was just as high as always. But I could never get it up without taking some Cialis. Not even a lot. Like 2.5 milligrams. But if I didn't take it, I just couldn't do anything. I was stumped for a very long time. Checked my testosterone levels. Saw a therapist. Started working out more. Took vitamin D supplements. Nothing seemed to help. Meanwhile I gotta go to the bathroom half an hour before any sexual encounter to take a ducking dong pill. It was messing with me so hard. Especially at that early age. 3 years into this whole ordeal. The back acne I have had since my teens really intensified and I went to a dermatologist. Turns out I have had a raging bacterial infection in my skin the entire time. I had to take antibiotics for 4 months before it cleared up. But, much more importantly, within 2 weeks of starting the antibiotics, my dong was working perfectly fine again. Stood up on command. Not a problem anymore. Later, I found out that the occasional nosebleeds I experience were also a result from a long-term bacterial infection in my nose and got rid of that too. Life has never been as good. Edit. For those asking. The name of the bacteria is Staphylococcus aureus and I took doxycycline for 2 months. Helped but didn't clear it fully. And clarithromycin for another 2 months. Finished the job. Also sorry to the dude whose private message I accidentally declined. The above paragraph should give you your answer though. Whoa, that's wild. Occasionally I get an extremely sharp pain in the left side of my chest preventing me from breathing at all. X-rays came up clean and my breathing is perfectly normal otherwise. Edit. I've been told multiple times that this is most likely precordial catch syndrome. Precordial catch syndrome? I get the same thing. My ears get irritated, easily punable, very frequently. It spreads into my jaw and makes it hard to eat, sleep, talk, live. I've seen several ENTs and other specialists about it and they just give me ear drops that temporarily fix the problem. Maybe someday I'll figure out what's going on. Eustachian tube dysfunction. Developed knee pain during sports as a kid. Doctors couldn't find anything so I was eventually limited from all running sports. Had to quit soccer at 12. 4 years later in high school it was still hurting. Got a new MRI. My kneecap had slightly shifted. Q 6 months physical therapy to get it back right. A few years later in college it is still hurting. MRI reveals nothing. Zip. My knee is perfectly healthy. Q 6 more months of physical therapy. And I'm back playing sports. Few years later again and I've been living with knee pain every day. Just assuming it's normal. But my ankle starts hurting more and more. Chalked it up to playing contact sports. Finally got an MRI on my ankle and I had a ligament tear and a tendon strain. Fortunately no surgery but a boot for a few weeks and physical therapy, again. First day of physical therapy I walk in super skeptical. It never helped before. Why should it help now? Dr. asks me for my injury history. Keeps pushing until I'm telling her about how my knee hurts as a kid. Then the spooky part. She points to my outer thigh. You ever have IT band pain? Yes. Points to my inner calf. And inner calf pain? Yes. Then she points to 3 spots in my back. Back pain in these areas? Those are the only places I have back pain. Turns out I had a rotation in my hip that I was likely born with. It caused all my issues. And I even had nerve damage in my left foot. 6 more months of physical therapy and it's now at a point where I can do a daily correction in my hip and I'm dandy. I'm also still in touch with that doctor because she truly changed the quality of my life. Oh my god, my hip rotates out of position and one of my co-workers, we work at a gym, specializes in pain management and we do like 3 exercises to realign my hips and all my back pain disappears. It's insane what the body will accidentally do. I get severe pain in my rib cage under my left breast. It can get pretty bad. I've been to the doctor and there's been no identifiable cause. Have that too. Most likely it's a slightly deformed nerve that gets squished by certain movements. Been to the ER thinking I had a heart attack at 14 because of this lol. If I lay propped up, think little kid laying on their belly coloring, my legs go numb. No visible reason why. Doctors are just like, well, don't do that. Sounds like pinched nerves. I'm missing a bone in my neck. Never been surgically reduced. Shit's just not there. My uncle has an extra bone in his lower back. He is now physically incapable of lifting more than 20 pounds without potentially putting too much stress on it and it damaging his spinal cord. Caveat. I did get a diagnosis. I spent about 4 months in my early 20s with excruciating but intermittent joint pain. It was like glass shards grinding between my bones. My knees, ankles, hips, elbows, and lower back. I would wake up in the morning and cry while I was trying to bend my legs enough to step into the shower. I was severely depressed. I went to rheumatologists. And they had no answers. My inflammation markers were enough above normal that they believed me. But not scary high. They tested me for Lyme, hepatitis, rah, etc. Turns out I had a bad seal in the trunk of my car, which created a puddle in the hidden area with the spare tire, which grew mold, soaked in bleach, dried on a sunny day, and my symptoms went away slowly over a couple weeks. Funny thing is that they asked if I was being exposed to mold, but I didn't have any reason to think that I was, which led me to wonder in retrospect, how many people don't know that is what is causing their problems. Turns out I had a bad seal in the trunk of my car, which created a puddle in the hidden area with the spare tire, which grew mold, soaked in bleach, dried on a sunny day. Going to this paragraph from the previous, I thought it was all some sort of metaphor for body parts. I was like, what? I have an itch right in the middle of the bottom of my foot. I've been to doctors and dermatologists and there is nothing they can find wrong with it. It only really itches at night. But it will get so bad I want to like rip through my skin. Best guess is it's something in my nervous system. But that is just because my doc had no other explanation. Have you ever checked your B12 levels? Low B12 may cause nerve damage which can result in discomfort on your feet. I suffer from peripheral neuropathy and I get shooting pains, burn sensations, pins and needles and electric shocks on the bottom of my feet. They are absolute horrible and the cause was extreme B12 deficiency. If you haven't checked your levels, I recommend you do because you catch it early on you can still fix it before you develop any long-term damage. I'm tired all of the time. No matter how much I sleep. I could fall asleep anywhere at any time if I just had a minute to close my eyes. If the alarm didn't wake me up in the morning, I could sleep straight through until the next morning. Probably unrelated, but also weird, is that I have spells of not being able to get warm. If I get one of these cold spells I could go stand in the Florida sun in a parka and still feel freezing cold. What gives? Hi. Sounds like you have a thyroid issue, hypothyroidism. To be exact. It's usually a symptom of Hashimoto's disease, but can also be a standalone issue. The most common symptoms are exhaustion, cold, inability to lose weight gain, constipation, depression, and hair thinning loss. Get your thyroid levels checked ASAP. Source: have Hashimoto's that went undiagnosed for years and suffered those very symptoms. A mystery allergy to something. I've eliminated everything possible. Now I've given up. Doctor did a biopsy to see what it is. Yup, I'm allergic to something. It's a skin allergy. I no longer use lotion. Switched body wash over 20 times. Switched shampoo conditioners. Switched laundry detergent, now I only wash my clothes with vinegar. Still no change. Are you allergic to mold? Mold is very hard to detect but is present to some degree in most buildings that are wood and especially ones with non-filled-in walls. Sometimes I can feel my heart trip up. Like it actually misses a beat. Then has 3-6 super hard beats before getting back to normal. My doctor says it's nothing but it feels like I'm about to die. PVCs? I've had those for over 20 years and I'm still kicking. They got really bad when I was planning my wedding due to the stress, so now I'm on beta blockers and anxiety meds to reduce them. I can sometimes hear my neck. It sounds like liquid passing through a tiny opening. It's so strange. Doctors listen for it but nothing ever comes to it. I get this sometimes too. The sound comes from the back of my head and seems to travel down my spine until about halfway down my neck. I kept having recurring stomach pains at random with no recognizable pattern or trigger. First time was Thanksgiving 2 years ago. Thought I had just eaten too much and was in mild pain that night. Still felt a little off the next day or so but went back to normal. Happened a few more times until last summer when I had to go to the ER because it was so bad. Have had CAT scans, drugs, blood work, upper endoscopy and still no answer. It's like someone has lit a fire in my stomach and also a little like being a balloon about to pop. I never could connect it with a food or ingredient. And it was never regular. Sometimes twice or more a month and sometimes I'd go 6 or more weeks between episodes. The last time was literally the day I found out I was pregnant and I haven't had an issue since. Which is nice. I'm almost afraid to have this kid because I don't want to have the painto start up again. Ugh, that reminds me of gallstones. Abdominal pain is so vague it's hard to pinpoint. Took me 4 attacks before I was able to determine it was the gallbladder. We finally found a solution for my weird medical symptoms. First I started having migraines 9 years ago. Nearly every weekend. Then I started getting bad stomach symptoms in the morning after eating my cereal. Thought maybe intermittent lactose intolerance was a thing. Lived with that for years. Then my dad died and it kicked things up a notch. Couldn't stay hydrated. Upset stomach and diarrhea daily. Terrible canker sores that made my whole face throb. Exhausted all the time. Terrible anxiety. The doctor gave me acid reducing pills for my stomach but they were only helping a bit. So I started experimenting with my diet. As it turns out, I'm a celiac. After 2 weeks without gluten I started getting better. I remember walking up from a nap one afternoon and not having a headache and thinking, do people normally feel good when they wake up? Felt amazing until I accidentally glutened myself for 3 weeks by not knowing that the chocolate chips at Starbucks actually contain cookie bits. All my symptoms came back and now I'm working through the 2-week period after going gluten-free before I start feeling better again. The first paragraph I knew that's what it was going to be. I'm sorry you have it but I'm happy you figured it out. Not a doctor. Childhood friend's mom developed celiacs post-pregnancy and became head of the local chapter of the Celiacs Association. Freaky slow heart rate. I'm in pretty good shape but not a super athlete or anything. Typically my resting is mid-40s. When I first realized this I was at the doctor's and they did an EKG and my heart rate was 38. I was freaking out. The doctor, though it was funny. He gave me the EKG as a souvenir. Could any of your blood relatives, parents or grandparents, have been exposed to Agent Orange? I don't know much about it but my brother-in-law just discovered that's why he has a very slow heart rate, 40s range, and low blood pressure. His father was exposed to it during a war and it affects all descendants. Now my nieces and nephews have to be monitored for the same issues if they ever show up. I had patches of rough skin underneath my eyes. The skin started to itch when I was about 8 and I could never really explain how they felt to my parents. We went to the doctors who would prescribe different anti-itch creams for the patches to see if they would work, and sometimes they got me to stop and sometimes they didn't. I got glasses simply because they would hide the patches sorta when I was wearing them. It took one visit to a dermatologist when I was 16 for her to tell me I had eczema. How annoying to put up with something so simple to diagnose for so long. Same happened to me, but the itchy skin was on my eyelids. None of the creams could go around the eye. But I found that Visine allergy helped a lot. Make sure to like and subscribe so we can watch together.